Welcome, and thank you for joining Between Sessions with Justin and Chaley.
Just a quick disclaimer before we start. This podcast is for educational and conversational purposes only. It's not intended to replace therapy, counseling, or professional mental health care. We are sharing lived experiences and reflections, not prescriptions, and we encourage our listeners to seek professional guidance when needed.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining this week.
I am super excited. This week's episode is Things Therapists Wish You Knew, but Don't Say Out Loud. Yeah, I love this. I hope all of my clients watch.
Let's start. Why do we not always say that?
Ooh, you hit
Right?
me with a good one. Why do we not always say them? Sometimes, I don't want to say they can seem unprofessional, but sometimes they can.
Yeah, that's kind of where my head went is like sometimes it can maybe feel not the most professional, but it might be real.
Yeah, we have some pretty strict ethical boundaries that we as therapists have to follow. And there's a lot that I wish I could say that might not be the most therapeutic thing to say in the moment.
So kind of differing like the real life versus the ethics of being in a session.
Yeah. And I am not about to come out with a whole bunch of unethical stuff. So don't, if you're hanging on for that, it's not going to be that exciting. But it's more so in the session, right? We're very focused on you. So if I were to say things like that I wish you knew just because I wish you knew them, that would be weird. It would be a weird segue. If you're telling me about your childhood trauma and I came out with some random fact, what I wish you knew about therapy? If there's not a segue to it, I'm not going to say it. But it's stuff I just wish everybody knew.
Yeah.
That we
what
don't
kind of
always get to say.
takeaways from doing this for so long or participating in our own therapy for so long of things we've just picked up that I wish I could just put out a bulletin.
Yeah, like a PSA. Here it is. Here's our PSA of things your therapist wants you to know, but can't always say.
Okay.
All right.
Where do we start?
Okay, so I'm going to get my first one out because it can come across as a little creepy. And that is that you are not just a person on my caseload. I don't just spend 60 minutes focusing on you and then you're gone from my mind. We think about our clients between sessions.
Yeah.
We just do. It'd be impossible not to. If I have a client who really loves, I don't know, fish, and I go to an aquarium, you're in my mind. I'm going to think oh, so-and-so would really like this fish. You're there. You're a person to me. You're not just a number or a spot on my schedule. No, you're a person in my professional life, and I think about you outside of session.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that. And I think that goes back to, I think, really what our mission tends to be. And then even the practice that we work for, our mission is treating people as humans, as people, rather than just a number, rather than just another hour. There's investment. I don't think that is always the expectation for people coming into therapy. And it may not always be the case at every place that you go to for therapy. I hope that it is, because that's where I feel like quality care comes from. But that is something that is important to me, and I think important to you, that the human side of it shows up. We're not just a stone wall, a blank slate. I do think about those things after the session and think about, "Oh, what can I let them know next time?" Or if I come up with something in the meantime between the sessions, I will try to bring that up. And, oh, I thought about a different way that we might be able to tackle this problem. Or if someone is going through something and then it comes up in a different session, I might try to utilize some of that information to be like, oh, maybe we can problem solve this way because someone else might have been going through something similar.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're not just the blank slate, the stone cold person just sitting there and everything bounces off. I mean, sometimes I think I've shared this before, but sometimes things that can come up in sessions can be really tough too. And I've had an emotional reaction, whether it be during the session or afterwards. So knowing that with that, it's not to take any responsibility or anything, but some of the things that people go through are really tough.
Yeah. And we feel it with you. That was another thing I was going to bring up is Like, this is not my session. This is your session. So you have the emotions and I will have the stoic face as much. I mean, I'm a human. So, I have gotten emotional. There's some emotion provoking things that you just can't help as a human. But
Yeah.
for the most part, I pride myself. I'm very like stoic and I let you have your emotions. But there have been many times where I have ended a session or ended a Zoom call and just totally just broken down because it's so much, and we carry some of that with you.
And that's not to make anybody feel bad by any means, but it is the reality of that what you're going through and what the people that we work with go through, it doesn't just stay right there. It's not like it's just a note and then it's done. Like there's depth to that emotion.
Yeah, like, we care. We genuinely care, and it affects us. A lot of times, like with my own therapist, I spend my hour in therapy processing through all of that
Mhm.
because, you get to know your clients and you care so much about them. And when something bad happens, like,
Yeah.
you feel it with them.
That's going to kind of lead me into this next one of the things that we want you to know is that we have the training to be able to handle those things. I've had so many people
Ooh,
say like, I don't want to say it because I don't want to upset. No, I want you to get it out.
yes.
I've done the work. Not saying it's just gonna again, it doesn't just roll off, but we have done the work and the training to be able to take and carry that. So it doesn't affect us the same way as it does you. You're the one going through and experiencing it. We can hear it and process it differently and show up to support you. That's the purpose of going through this process.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
I just had to explain that to somebody
Mhm.
because they were upset because their friend was, for lack of better words, just trauma dumping on them. And they were like, "I don't know how you do it. Like, I don't know how you can take in all of somebody else's trauma." She's like, "I'm exhausted and I'm feeling so overwhelmed." And I had to say to her, like, listen, not to brag, but I did a lot of school. I did my licensing. Like, I have trained so much for this.
Mm.
And a lot of people, oh my, this is like segue to segue to segue because the next thing I was going to say is therapy is not just talking. A lot of people think that, to be a therapist, you just have to be a good listener. And no, it's not. There's so much training that comes with it, and part of it is being able to take in all those big emotions and feel them however you feel them. Like I said, sometimes I need to cry, it's
Mhm.
okay, but being able to process through it quickly and be there for your clients.
Right? Deep
Yep.
breath out.
I
I love
know.
that. Also kind of the next one is yes, this is a job and we get paid for it, but any good therapist, anyone that you really have that connection with, is not doing it just for the paycheck. It is, we're there because we enjoy doing this. And we're still human at the end of the day. Good days, bad days, it shows up and we always try to make sure we're showing up the best for you. But at the end of the day, like we really care about what we're doing and passionate about it. That's why I know that's why I'm in the field. I
Mhm.
know for you, that's why you're in the field is because there's a genuine care and desire. The amount of times that I have heard it kind of discounted, it upsets me because that makes me know that at some point you were treated that way, that you were treated as just a number or just a box to be checked. And that's not the quality care that we give.
Yes, I love that. Okay, so another thing kind of on the same page is I work a lot with kids. So this is a little bit different, but like something I wish all of like the parents knew is kids need connection before correction. And that has made and I know you don't want some rando giving you parenting advice, and I am winging this parenting thing with all of you. Like, I'm winging it. I'm holding on by a thread, guys, but we got this. But one solid piece of advice that I can give you is, yeah, kids need connection before correction. And I vaguely remember when you were still an intern and you were working with me and we had a kiddo, he was little, right? Like 5,
4 or 5,
4 or 5,
something like that.
having big feelings, what I, as a mom, would qualify as a temper tantrum. And it was noted that you cannot discipline a kid in the middle of a temper tantrum. you can't do it. It won't work, and it'll make everything so much worse, and it'll stress you out so much worse. Like, that is one thing I wish I could tell all my parent clients is you need to de-escalate and calm them down and get them out of that heightened
'Cause
episode.
none of it's even being processed. Anything that you say in that moment is going to have 0 impact because they're not even listening. Their
Mhm.
ears are turned off, and that's the similar with an adult, to be honest.
So
If we're
true.
defensive and we're angry and we're heightened, nothing's being processed.
Yeah, we need to come down to baseline before we can comprehend what people are saying.
In that situation, if I'm remembering it, like, I'm reflecting back to that, I was like, "I don't know what to do. I have no clue." And you literally just you kneeled down, you got on the floor, and I think you asked, like, "Why are you crying?" Or, "Hey, I hear you." And it changed the whole tone, and it allowed them to just take a breath.
Yeah, I talked very quiet. I didn't raise my voice. I had to repeat myself a few times. And I said, I really want to know what is upsetting you. I can't understand you right now. And I really want to understand you. So take a couple deep breaths. And when you're ready, I want to hear what you have to say. I want to hear what happened. And I was so happy that that worked in front of an intern because it doesn't always. It really doesn't. And sometimes kids are just like, F off. I'm going to have a temper tantrum. And that's okay too. But I was thrilled. I was like, yeah,
It was
I'm
a
awesome.
it was such a good example of how that can really show that connection piece is going to go so much farther than any punishment or
Mm.
anything, any corrective behavior. We gotta build a foundation first.
Yeah.
Even if it's just in that moment, building that, like, bringing back down to grounding, being in touch with where we are.
Yep. Yeah, I never punish or I mean, I don't punish or discipline my clients. I'm talking my kid. I don't punish or discipline when we're either of us are in heightened emotions. And you know what? If we can't regulate, then I just separate. So like if both of us are heightened, it's usually like a you go to your room, I'm gonna go to my room, I'll come back out in 15 minutes, and we both just need to chill. And then we'll talk about it. And a lot of people think like, oh, okay, like gentle parenting, you're just letting them do what they want. No, let's say like in the temper tantrum, they break something, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to punish him for it in that moment because discipline, you don't do it to be mean. You do it because you want your kids to learn. They're not going to learn anything in that heightened emotion. But if that were to happen, once we get calmed down, I would have to say something like, "All right, now we need to address like the thing that you broke because big emotions are okay, but what we do with them, like that's what matters. And you broke this thing, and there are going to be consequences to your actions." Because I don't want my kid to think like that it's okay. Like they need to know that there's consequences, but they need to comprehend and understand that there's consequences. Does that make sense?
So it might not be in that very second, and being able to give that opportunity to then even be able to reflect on it. In that moment, they're just going to be mad about the first thing that put him in the temper tantrum, and then getting punished about what they broke. There's no understanding or connection to that consequence. It's all together.
And then next time, you can kinda help guide them through the
Mm.
temper tantrum, like, "Hey, remember last time you got really mad and you broke something? Why don't we just settle down, work through it?"
Thing that my mom had always done when it came to like that parenting or that discipline piece, and I thought this was incredible, is she would not punish in the moment. She would take time, come back to it later that day, maybe the morning after, because she always said, like, I'm going to give a ridiculous punishment or consequence because I'm also so mad or frustrated at this moment. I'm going to ground you for a year. That's not effective. And she's like, then when I did that, I would then go back on what I said. Like, it's not realistic for me to ground you for a year, maybe 2 days. But then what does that show when I say one thing and then I go back on it? So she always just took her time. And she would also ask me what I thought a fair punishment
Oh my
was.
gosh, I do that too.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
To
okay,
take some
mom.
ownership, right? But then it allows the individual to take some ownership in that and see what is fair. I've also heard other parents doing this, and many times the kid will come up with a way worse punishment than what the parent even thought about it. So it shows the weight that their actions they really felt.
You know what? That is true, and my son does it too,
Yeah.
but my son's very smart, and I think he's noticed that if he says something, like, totally off the wall punishment, that I'm gonna be like, "Aw," punish him less. So, I've started just being like, "That's what you think." Like, because I want to know what he really, really thinks. I don't want him to give me some crazy, like, I can't even think of one, but he was like, "I just need to be in my room for the rest of the day," and I'm like, "That's what you think?" And he was just kinda like, "So."
Thinking about that, I'm gonna the next one share one related to trauma, but thinking about in childhood, we are not responsible for what happened to us, but we are responsible for the way that we heal and the way that we show up as a teen or an adult. It is not an excuse, the things that happen to us, but it is valid.
Ugh, like, it's a valid reason, but n it doesn't excuse negative behavior,
Yeah.
which unfortunately, I see a lot of, like, "I'm just this way because I was hurt as a kid." And it's like,
Yeah.
That's not you can no.
Because we can change.
Totally valid. Your feelings are 100% valid, and that sucks that that happened to you as a kid, and we can process through it, but
And it probably does show up and affect the way that you react as an adult. For
Mhm.
sure. That's 100% valid as well. We might have a lower frustration tolerance. We might get more stressed more easily. We might have to yell and scream to get a point across because we did when we were a kid. Those are all things that we can heal from and we can work through. We don't have
Mhm.
to treat other people that way either.
On the same wavelength, I also feel like your triggers, they're not other people's responsibilities. Like I see people say like, "Well, that's very triggering for me." And I guess I mean this in like certain ways, right? Because like you and I are friends. If there was something that you were doing that I found very triggering, I would feel comfortable telling you. I'm talking like general population. Like if big crowds trigger you, then we need to work on that. There's not accommodations, like, you can't call the mall and ask them to, not let anybody in because you need to go shopping and there's big crowds, like, the world can't bend to your triggers. Does that make sense, or do I sound like a jerk?
No, I think that
Okay.
makes sense. And it might sound a little harsh, but I think there's some reality to that though. Is we cannot let those triggers then make expectations. So expecting to clear out the mall because we're anxious or we don't like being around crowds or that is a trigger, that doesn't exist. That's just then going to impact us. At the end of the day, these triggers and having externalizing them to other people, we are just going to suffer.
And I think of like school, college, work, like getting up and presenting something in front of people might be something that triggers a panic attack or an anxiety attack.
Mhm.
But you can't just not do it. I mean, I can't just write you a note to not have to give any presentations in school because it triggers you. Because, as you live your life, you can't always avoid them. So it's so important to process through triggers and have that like coping toolbox rather than just thinking that you don't need to face them.
'Cause then we're setting ourselves up for failure. And not that failure is a bad thing because we can grow from it, but if we don't do anything with that, we're just going to be disappointed. I reflect back to working so many years in substance use and thinking about if we struggle with alcohol, that is one of the biggest ones that is such a common, challenge, and we live in a world that is full of alcohol.
Mm, It's everywhere.
If
Advertisements.
Exactly. We can't turn on the TV without there being an ad for some sort of alcohol. We can't just expect them not to be there. And if we just crumble every time we see that, we're going to suffer. We're not going to be able to watch TV. We're not going to be able to walk into the gas station. It's all in front of us. So we
Mhm.
have to manage that and find whatever way we can deal with it. It's not easy. It's probably one of the hardest things we're going to do, and that goes for so many of the triggers. It's not invalidating the trigger.
That's such a good example. Thank
Yeah.
you. That's way better than my mall example.
No, I think it makes sense
But
though, but it's unrealistic to expect the world to bend to it because it's even if it is, I mean, talking about alcohol, so many people deal with alcohol use and it is unhealthy. The marketing team does not care.
right.
They're going to use that as ammo to make it more enticing, to make it look more fun.
Yeah.
So, being able to find a way that we can manage that, and that's Hard work. Also, I have said this in session before, but I just wish everybody knew it. Being well is the hardest thing we're going to do, but it is the most rewarding.
Ooh, love. It is hard work.
Hard work.
Dude, therapy's hard work. It is. It's not easy.
Mm-mm. To like actually reflect and look at ourselves in a light that is uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Also, the best growth comes from stepping outside of our comfort zone.
Mm, which I hate doing.
Oh,
I
it's our comfort zone for a
I was
reason.
gonna say it's called a comfort zone for a reason. So another one is seeing results from therapy is not immediate. Like, I really enjoy when people come in and they sit and they talk and they say, like, wow, I feel better. Because, yeah, that initial, like, getting everything off your chest, that will help. But I wish I had a magic wand that I could just wave and make all of your mental health issues just disappear. But I can't. I want to. Gosh, I want to, but I can't. It is a process. It takes time. There's so many layers to get through sometimes that it is a long-term investment. Don't be discouraged if you're not better, if you're not feeling all better. But, I've had clients after a certain amount of time be like, this is not helping. If you feel that way, say it. Say that you feel that way because it's like you sometimes don't notice all the progress that you're making. So if you feel like it's not helping and you're making no progress, please say that because it'll either cause me to take a step back and be like, whoa, maybe we need to shift what we're doing. But more than likely, it's going to cause me to be like, all right, let's pump the brakes. Let's think of Justin when I first met him versus Justin now. I'm just using your name as a
Yeah.
client.
For us, a really nice thing is we have a treatment plan. We can literally look at what you wanted to work on in the beginning to where you're at now. And that is black and white evidence of the progress or lack of progress that you've made.
Mhm.
Maybe you identified something you thought you wanted to work on and that wasn't even the case. Being honest. I've heard this so many times and it's something that I believe to be so true. Like, if anybody you're going to be honest with are your healthcare professionals.
Yes.
There's no judgment. It is.
There is no judgment. That was gonna be my other
Yeah.
one. People have said to me, like, I don't want you to judge me. Okay, first of all, professionally, at this point in my career, there is nothing you could tell me that I would judge you. Like, there's just not. I'm sorry. I don't want to be like, I've heard it all, but because I haven't. But there is nothing you can say to me where I'm going to have any judgment. Personally, like, I'm not judging nobody. Like, I am not judging anybody on any type of choices. If you feel like you are just a hot mess express making horrible choice after horrible choice, just be honest and tell me because I've probably been there, right? But more so, like, I'm also very trained to help you, but I can't help you if I don't know. But yeah, that's another thing. There is no judgment. I swear. Like, we're not sipping tea, like, judging our clients, like, oh my God, this one is such a hot mess. Like, no, there is zero judgment. And we genuinely, well, it circles back. We
Yeah.
genuinely just care and want to help you.
Yeah. And to piggyback on that, like, don't come in and always just tell us the best parts. If we're not getting to the deep parts of this, it's not going to be effective. I want a recap of how life is actually going when we check in, not just what you think I want to hear.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap this one up. You know what I would really love is if in the comments we could hear things clients wish their therapists knew. So, while maintaining anonymity, we would love to know some random things that clients wish they could tell their therapist, even though you should be telling us everything. Things
That'd be
clients wish their therapist knew. But
yeah.
thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. This was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. Thank you guys for joining.